Hey everyone, and welcome to the Empowered HR Leaders Show. I'm your host, Asia, and I'm excited. This is our second episode, or my second episode, but with my guest, Alex Charnofsky. I cannot wait to introduce you to him. Hey, so quick background, Alex and I met each other through DeVry University, and we're going to kind of discuss this story a little bit about how we met. And we met through one of my friends who is the center dean there. So if Laura is watching, hi Laura, how are you? We met through her, and it turns out that he was getting his MBA in human resources. I mean, that was his concentration is in human resources, and so he is now a SHRM CP. And for those of you who don't know what SHRM CP is, and you're just getting into the field of human resources, SHRM CP stands for Certified Professional with the Society of Human Resources Management. So SHRM is one of the associations that we highly recommend you join if you are in human resources, even if you're not. And I know Alex and I will talk about that. And he just graduated from DeVry University with his MBA. And I cannot wait to hear what we're going to talk about today, because we're going to talk about talent acquisition and career services, things that you can do to help get yourself out there, find a job, get a career, and how we got to take advantage of talent acquisition. Because I mean, we got so much to talk about there. So Alex, thank you so much for being here on the show today.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Asia. I'm really excited to be here. I'm glad to be part of your second show. And I know for yourself, what you've done, just to kind of comment on yourself. You've done quite a bit. You're involved in so many degree programs. I mean, personally, I know you from Keller. We're in the same honor society together. Your background and what you've done with HR and just empowering, it speaks volumes. So
Thank you.
so I'm glad to be here because I have a bit of respect for you and for what you've done so far. So thank you again for having me.
Of course. No, thank you so much for being here. And, I'm sure our audience can't wait to hear more from you about talent acquisition. That's a huge deal to talk about, especially today with this pandemic.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
mean, how's the pandemic been treating you, by the way?
Yeah, for me, it was in February of this year. I was laid off, so I've been on the job search, but it's good that you're bringing up talent acquisition, because this is a very crucial time where it's a great time to be able to reinvent yourself, and also not just that, but take a look back and look at yourself introspectively, to make yourself just more robust and more ready to take on your next position. So what we're finding right now is that there are a lot of people that are either one of two things. We're either seeing that people are starting their own job, or starting their own business. I have a friend actually right now. She worked in hotels, and her role was cut due to the pandemic, and now part of what she really liked to do before she got into hotels was tutor. And now she opened up her own business. She's tutoring kids K through 8, and she's having a lot of fun time with that.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
It is. So like I said, in this day and age, you really, really have to be flexible. It's before, I think, last year, because we've almost been a full year into this pandemic here. The whole mentality of growing was being flexible, and now we're in that state of hyper flexibility, where it's not just, if you can't adapt, you're going to get left out. It's we're on another planet now.
Yeah.
What that means is that you're not able to keep up unless you can adapt. And that's going into talent acquisition. That's actually something that a recruiter is going to be looking for right now.
Yeah.
We're recruiters are looking also for transferable skills. So uh, I don't know if the audience has heard this term before, but if you haven't, it's a very it's a term that most people can have from one job to the next.
Yeah. Well, so let's talk about transferable skills for a minute. What kind of transferable skills are we looking for? Because obviously, I guess if we think about it from that point of view, we're going into the we're in industry 4.0, right? And so of course technology is such a big deal. A lot of the big jobs are really out in the data analyst, analytics, business analytics, computer science, information systems areas. And so for us, we're in HR, and so HR is also starting to become a little bit more automated. I don't know what you think about that, but I mean, when we talk about transferable skills, it's kind of like, okay, what do we transfer over? And then so in the top of my mind, I'm thinking of emotional intelligence. I'm
Mhm.
thinking of leadership capabilities and leadership skills. And so, what are some of those transferable skills that you can maybe enlighten us on?
Of course, yeah. One of the major factors of skills that you're trying to have that's transferable is going to be communication. Honestly,
Yeah.
um, that's something that gets just kind of rolled over and forgotten about, but it's something that's so key that everyone needs to have. And what do I mean by communication? Well, I mean the duration of time that you're reaching out to somebody, the a means to do it. One of the things that I've kind of also picked up on is this was actually at one of the conference that you and I just went to. One of the
Yeah.
speakers there was speaking about how you communicate with your teams now. And of course, a lot of the way we communicate with our teams is through Zoom or some other Microsoft Teams, WebEx, Skype, any one of those technology sharing devices of people communication. Anyway,
Yeah.
the thing is, not everyone, and I know this is going to come into flexibility again, but not everyone likes to communicate via Zoom. Not everyone likes to have their face on camera or be in this kind of live setting. There are still a lot of people that feel apprehensive to showing their face. Some people have been working um, maybe inside a cubicle and they don't really engage with many people. So now, here's some emotional intelligence at work. You have to empathize now
Mhm.
with your staff, just in that same way of, are you able to um, feel what they're feeling?
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
uh,
that's true. It's so true. Empathy is actually, I think, should be the number one skill to transfer over because you need to be, especially for someone who's in a leadership position, you need to have empathy towards those people that are working with you and for you because right now we're going through so much with this pandemic, especially a lot of people are going through mental health issues. And like you said about Zoom, I mean, can we go back to Zoom for a moment really quick? Because you took
do it.
some people don't want to be on video and we're stuck on Zoom now because that's really where our life is. And I just want to say I'm one of those people and I will raise my hand and admit that I will keep myself off camera for the most part. Because I don't want to be on camera. And there are a lot of people that are just like, I don't want to be on camera, it's a different feeling. And then a lot of us are feeling Zoom fatigue. So for those of us who are going through that, again, like you're just talking about empathy, right? Empathy kind of rolls back into that. Like you got to be empathetic to the fact that maybe not everybody is that happy to be on Zoom. you know?
Yeah, and that's something that I've kind of grappled with too. I mean, personally, before, way back in the day, I was an actor, so I did, dramas and theater productions and things like that. So some of these were recorded, and obviously this was when I was a teenager, so I had all that, built up like tension of like, are people going to like me, or am I who I am, things like that. So first, personally for me, I mean, I have kind of gotten used to it, but I have so many friends and acquaintances and colleagues that are posting on, even if we just take the Zoom factor away just for a minute here, just on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter or any other social media sharing platforms, TikTok even for right now.
Yeah.
that they're okay with posting on that. But we really have to look at that as, yes, we do have some of these very animated folks that are into that, and they might do that on their spare time. But
Yeah.
some of these folks are not comfortable with that. And really, as a recruiter, as a hiring manager, as a just as a manager, you need to be receptive to that and be understanding that that is not the attitude that every new recruit is going to come through your building and building or your office. We don't have buildings as much anymore now.
That's true. I mean, everyone's going to have the same feelings or the same wants of what, other people are doing. So I think we got to be aware of I guess this is kind of bringing up the whole extroversion, introversion aspect too, because I'm an introvert. I'm a very high introvert. So I am one of those people that I'll just avoid wanting to be on camera for the most part, just avoiding it just because maybe I just need to, you know, be on my own kind of thing, but and so it kind of comes to that point, like where you have to understand and empathize with the people that you're working with to understand like where they're coming from, how they're feeling, who's the go-getters, who are the people that love being on camera, who are the people that don't, all of these things come into play.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're exactly right. The introversion definitely can affect how somebody can react to stimulus. So,
Yeah.
yeah, you are definitely right on that aspect. And I think that folks like that are a little bit more, how should I say it? They're kind of more comfortable behind the scenes. They might be the one programming your Zoom call, or they might be putting everything together. So, um, again, it really just goes back to flexibility and adaptability, and just being flexible with your teams and finding out what they want. I was going to say this earlier, but not everyone does like a Zoom call. Some people really just prefer emails, and this is where adaptability again comes in. Is you need to adapt to how they communicate. So maybe if you have a team of Jim, Craig, Sally, and Leslie, well, let's say Jim doesn't like Zoom calls, but he might respond to you versus email. Let's say the rest of your team, the other folks that I mentioned, also do like Zoom calls. So,
Yeah.
You may not necessarily have Jim on your Zoom calls, but you're still able to communicate the message to him. Remember, we live in a digital age now where there is, we can text, we can call, we can email, we have WhatsApp, we have I don't know how many people use social media at work,
Yeah.
media.
If you're allowed to use social media, because that's one thing they can block you if you're on their computer and system. But of course, now most of us are working from home. So I don't think we don't have to worry about the blocks unless we're using a work computer for VPN purposes. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Something else too I wanted to bring up, I'm sure as most people know, for prospective applicants for jobs, is the ATS.
Yes.
So Asya, maybe you can tell us a little about ATS, because I don't know if your viewers know, but what does it stand for?
So ATS is an applicant tracking system. I mean, look, I'm all for automation to make things easy, but ATS systems, let me tell you something, it only looks at keywords. It doesn't look at your personality. It doesn't look at your emotions. It doesn't look at who you are. It's just looking at the keywords. If your keywords match the job description, it will go through to the hiring manager's desk. But if it doesn't, it's just not going to do it. The hiring manager is never going to get your resume. And so, the ATS system helps, especially right now. I mean, God, I was on LinkedIn. I want to say like I was looking at jobs a few weeks ago and looking at just like the statistics of how many people are applying for specific positions, especially with Netflix and Amazon and like the big companies. Ooh, over 1,600 applicants.
Yeah.
In some cases, almost 2,000 applicants. So an ATS system for something like that would work because of those 2,000 applicants, the ATS system can probably filter down to like your best 10 that you would want to interview, but if we didn't have the ATS system, I think the hiring manager would be stuck looking at resumes for days. And that's why there's a specific technique I think people use in HR when they're looking at resumes, and that's to look at your objective and to quickly glance at your skill set. And if your objectives and your skill set don't really meet what they're looking for, they just, they look at your resume for maybe all of a minute to look at that, and then that's it. The next thing, the next thing. And then finally they'll find someone that says, oh, but they have this. Maybe we'll interview them. So that's kind of like the old way of getting it done, right? But with the ATS, the applicant tracking system, it kind of does that for you based off keywords.
Right.
But my gripe about ATS is that you lose out on a lot of potentially great candidates.
You do.
Yeah,
So
I can't stand ATS.
that was perfect. I think you covered an ATS pretty well. And most, I mean, I have to say, like, if your employee, if your firm has at least 50 employees, and I think depending on your expenses, you're gonna encounter an ATS.
Yes, absolutely.
This is something that's I'd say I think I've probably known about an ATS now for about 5 years, or at least I've encountered one, either with working with one or with applying through the many that I encountered through.
Yeah, it's same here. But
So
one thing
yeah,
too that I wanted to mention really quick, for those of you who are wondering how your applications are going to go through the ATS system. Number one, and this is something my professor, my human resource business partner professor taught us when I was taking the certification courses just earlier in the year. He said, do not put in your ATS as a PDF. It will crash the system. Okay, so just remember, if you're going to upload it to, unless it tells you that you can upload a Word file, right? Because some of the applications will tell you can do that. You can do that. But if it doesn't, most ATMs, why did I just say ATMs?
I'd like to get some money from the ATM, please.
most most ATS systems will crash if you give them if you give them a PDF. Again, I was going to say PowerPoint is a PDF, but do not send a PowerPoint either. That will crash the system. Do not send a resume that's very like has these frilly fonts and like a photo of you. This is something I actually learned a hard way, that it will actually crash your ATS system. Because I remember I was showing my professor, and he was like, "No, that's fine that you want to have a picture. So if you're trying to send a creative type of resume for maybe a creative employment, for some like maybe someone like who's doing marketing, and yeah, they might be looking at an ATS system too, but maybe they're opening up an actual resume. But you would rather not have a photo of you in all these like different fonts and colors and stuff, because what will happen is, again, the ATS system will crash because it's trying to look for keywords. So your resume needs to be basically very simple. It's okay to have like the lines in your resume to kind of separate the sections out, but keep it to Times New Roman or Arial, like a very simple font, maybe a size 10, to try to fit in everything. And don't make your resume more than like 2 pages. I mean, now 2 pages are actually generally okay. Before, I remember 20 years back, it was one page, right? It was 1 page for the resume, but now it's up to 2 pages, so it's okay. If you're doing a curriculum vitae, which is a CV, and that's more for academia, that can be as many pages as it needs to be, because you're talking about your publications, you're talking about your past experiences in teaching and everything else in between. But if you are using a regular resume, 2 pages max, black and white, make it as simple as possible, send it to them, and then the ATS system takes care of that.
Yeah, no,
Sorry, I just had to mention that.
no, that's actually perfect. Because there's a lot of people out there that are thinking like, what can I do to stand out? What can I do to make my resume known? And you would think, oh, well, then maybe if I put a graphic on there, or maybe a nameplate, or a drawing or something, especially if you're, I think there is one exception here. And if you're like an artist, or if you're like a graphic designer, then they might have a little bit more. I don't know if the ATS would still like that. I don't know personally if an ATS is going to be used by a graphic design.
Right, yeah.
But in any case, the majority of people that are applying for jobs nowadays are encountering them. And you mentioned also too, Arial and Times New Roman. I actually heard that those two are like the exclusive two that you want to use.
Yeah.
Of course, no one's going to ever use wingdings. That's just complete silly.
No, unless you want to use symbols all over.
Right. But in any case, you do really want to have it streamlined. You want to have words that kind of mirror the job requisition. You're going to want to find words that you're going to want to find words that are blending your culture with their culture. And what I mean by that is, that's kind of the second part about looking for a job right now. You're not just looking for, compatibility, but you're also looking for the networking aspect too. And what I mean by that is, well, obviously you do want to have a similar culture. You do want to find a culture that you breed with.
Yeah.
But at the same time too, people are actually finding jobs two different ways now. They're, of course, they are applying, directly, and hopefully they're getting something, but they're also finding jobs in another way. And that's really through networking. And that's really where your professional, clubs and your professional groups are going to come in. So,
Yeah.
this doesn't just go for HR, but we were just briefly talking about this just right before we came on. But
Yes, we were.
even if you're not in HR, or even whatever industry you're in, you still seek out these professional groups, because right now this is going to be the way for you to find a job. You're going
Yes.
to you're going to be looking for like-minded people that fit in with your field. So I brought up graphic designer a lot, but if you're a graphic designer and you're not really sure where to get started, you're going to want to look into a professional group that graphic designers can get together, because you're going to have lots of topics to talk about that are in common, that are you're going to share that mentality. You may not have everything in common, but if you have just one thing, one trait, one certain program expertise that you've had before, then you can talk a lot about that. For me, one of my favorite HRIS, that's Human Resource Information Systems, is UltiPro. And I first got with UltiPro at one of my previous companies. And so they use that. And what I love about HRIS, these human resource information systems, is that it makes everything so much easier for the HR professional.
Yes. Yeah,
And
it does.
these interact with ERPs, enterprise resource planning systems. It just makes the data sharing just so much easier. I don't know if I got a little off topic there, but
No. Totally. You're actually on the right topic, because we're talking about talent acquisition, and this is all a part of it, the networking and everything. And I was going to say, in fact, we were at the California Human Resources Conference. It was a 3-day event around the last week of October. And I got to tell you, that was so much fun, because we networked. I think I added, how many people did I add? I think I ended up adding about 150 people. And
that's
I'm still,
that's
yeah, on
No,
LinkedIn.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I want to give the audience here some perspective. When I was speaking with Raphael, that's our the Pyra's CEO,
Professional Human Resources Management.
right? And I think he mentioned it was like 2,000 not applicants, 2,000. No, we don't want that. 2,000 people, either attendees, 2,000 attendees. So that's either people that were current members, prospective members, early career, late career. Most people were in HR. I think there might have been a handful of people that were either transitioning, or some people that just weren't. But in any case, just to give the audience some perspective there, that's 2,000. And you met, I can't do math right now, but that's like what? I guess that's like a 20th or something of that. And you met like a 20th of the people.
Yeah. Right. I mean, well, if I were to put it in math perspective, yeah, there's a certain percentage. I mean, 150 is quite a big number out of 2,000 that attended. And you got to also think about it. The people that attended also, not all of them were in HR. Not all of them had an HR background, but they were there because they had something to either offer to the people that they were meeting. So maybe they had a company or a business that matches the needs of those of us in HR. Or these were people that were like, I think HR might be the field for me to be in. I'm not sure yet, but let me kind of put my foot here and listen in to see what I can learn. And I met a few people that were just newbies in HR, and they were just thinking, wow, this was an amazing conference, because they came in not knowing much about HR to learning so much that's actually exciting them to be a part of it. And I think that's what a huge deal. And then again, and to your point, about the connections that we've made, like the 150 people that I met. And the funny thing is there's still people that are still connecting with me from
Yeah,
HR.
same here. Same here. I'm
You know,
enjoying it.
yeah,
I'm watching my little bubble grow too, as well too. People,
yeah,
some people I interacted with, some people I didn't, but it's okay.
yeah, yeah.
That's actually something too. I wanted to kind of comment on for how you do these conversations with people that you've never met before. I'd like to ask you, what is your for someone that you've either never interacted with before, but let's say, for example, you like a company, right, and you would
Yes.
really like to work with that company. Uh, what do you say? Like, if you know somebody in talent acquisition, personally, I have my own response, but I'd like to hear from you because I'd like to hear what your thought on that is. If you want to connect with someone.
If I want to connect with me, are you talking about if I want to connect with someone in talent acquisition?
Well, just in
Or just
general,
in general?
let's
Yeah.
say you like have a lot, like let's say for example, you really like Tesla and you want a job at Tesla or Amazon or
Yeah.
one of the big companies, and you're like, well, where do I start? But I really want to network and I really want to meet somebody there. So, I
Yeah,
mean,
no.
what would your take be? I mean, I have my own, but I'd like to hear yours first.
Well, obviously, I wouldn't be able to meet with Elon Musk because he's so up there, you know. But here's the thing: in order, if I wanted to get a job at Tesla, I think one of the things that I would do and what I would recommend anyone doing is to reach out to recruiters on LinkedIn who are with Tesla. And so you can do a quick search on LinkedIn. And when you do a search, it should be able to tell you exactly, recruiter. Some people like to keep their profiles hidden. So if you find someone with a hidden profile, it might not be easy to connect, but this is why it is a really good idea to be a premium member of LinkedIn and pay the $29.99 a month or the $59.99 a month, because then you can send what is called in mails to people that are not within your network. So if they're not even second degree to you, and they're like third degree plus, then you want to use the in-mail. And so what you want to do is you want to find those recruiters, and that's what I would do is I would find a recruiter. I would totally message them, you know, hello, how are you doing? I hope you're doing well. Because the whole thing is, even if, let's say I want to work with Tesla, but I need to create a relationship with that recruiter. I can't just send a first email right away or a first message on LinkedIn and say, hey, I'm interested in working for Tesla. Can you give me some pointers or tips or tell me what positions are available? I mean, a recruiter might look at that and go, okay, so who are you? What do you do? Why should I even bother to talk to you? You have to introduce yourself in a way where the other person is wanting to respond back to you. So you're asking them how you're doing. You are being friendly or just trying to create a conversation with them to build a repertoire, with them. And then from there, then you can start saying, hey, I'm looking to see if Tesla's a place I would like to work at. Let me know how I can be of service to you. I'm always about servant leadership, right? So I'm always going to say, let me know what I can do for you, and then the next thing you know, that's how we start talking. And then, oh, there's a position open. Would you like to apply? I'll put your resume out in front of the hiring manager. So that's one of the keys about networking too. Like you're saying, the reason why you want to network nowadays, and that's, one of the top ways to find a job is because a recruiter who knows you and who's had a relationship with you in some way, fashion, or form through the networking aspect is going to know you enough to say, I'm going to feel comfortable giving this person's resume to my manager or to the HR person and say, hey, this is a good candidate. Let's interview her or let's interview him. And so that's kind of like how you're going to do it. So if you're networking with me and I'm working in a company and I know we're looking for a position to fill and you would fit that quality because of the fact that I've talked to you and I know you, I would immediately put your name out there and say, here you go. I know this person. This person messaged me on LinkedIn, about a month or so ago, had a conversation with me. They seem like a really good fit. Here you go. And even your friends, asking your friends to help you if they know someone that they could introduce you to within their company so you can get to know them. That's a good way to do it too. So that's what I would do in order to get in front of a recruiter and get a job is to actually reach that person and talk to them. Case in point, and maybe he might be listening to our talk. One of my fellow Toastmasters, his name is Aaron Sampson. He was talking about how he got his position at Facebook, and he talked about the fact that he actually connected with a recruiter and had a good relationship built up with them, got to know them, and then within time that recruiter helped him to get a job in Facebook. if he hadn't reached out, if they hadn't started talking, that wouldn't have happened.
Right. Yeah. No, you said a lot. You covered a lot of great topics there with the in relation to connecting. You know, here, if I can give you like a side picture of your brain right here, right? So this is the front. This is your frontal cortex, and this is your back. Right over here is the cerebellum, right? You need to put the "I want a job" at the back of your brain right here when you're talking to people for the first time. Don't get rid of it completely, but at the same time, find ways, find topics, find anything in common that you can share with somebody. And the interesting thing about networking is almost every day you are doing some form of networking. And what I mean by that is, so for example, this is completely off topic, but it's something that I thought I'd share because it is one of my interests. For those of you out there, if you're a Back to the Future fan, you know about the very famous DeLorean, right? So that's the car that is, was very popular in the early 80s. Well, I love DeLoreans. Well, anyway, I was at this car show a few months back, and I got to talk to this one gentleman about his DeLorean. Well, one of my dreams is I'd love to own a DeLorean. Well, they're not always the cheapest, vehicle on even though it's a kind of an outdated car or whatever. But in any case, if you ever wanted to learn more about something that you're fascinated in, you're going to want to talk to somebody that owns the product. You're going to want to find out what is their thought on this product. And do you like it enough that maybe they know somebody who works for the company who actually knows that this specific product lines up with what I like to do. And kind of go off on a little bit of a tangent right there. Even if your your skill set doesn't line up with what the company's working for, so many large companies nowadays are working with other vendors. So you may still be able to work with that company that, even though they didn't think of you as the right fit, you might still eventually be a partner with them one day.
Yeah, so, you never know.
It's really interesting to see how networking works nowadays, because we have so many options out there.
Yeah, and we do have. It's interesting you're talking about networking. There's obviously, now that we're all virtual, of course, there's virtual networking, right? So obviously going and being a part of the conferences was just one way of networking to get a position or find a job or find someone that can help you out. But now you also have LinkedIn Local, for example. So depending on who's hosting it, which we're going to host another LinkedIn Local in December, and I'll invite you to that one too, Alex. So I've been in a couple of LinkedIn Local events. It's been great because I'm networking with people and getting to talk to people that, have maybe their own companies or working for somebody. And so you never know who's going to help you find something. And so LinkedIn Local is just one way of networking with people within your area and your community. Before it was in person, and now obviously was switched online. So I would definitely recommend looking around for these types of events in your area, or even create your own networking event so you can meet people. And then it's not hard to host it on Zoom. If you wanted to do that, you can host your own event, invite people, try to invite almost everybody you can on LinkedIn that's on your list. And then the ones who show up will be able to show up, send out a Zoom link once they register, and start talking to people. You're the host, but people are going to know you. And then they're going to start learning to know each other. And you never know what opportunities are going to come out of this, whether it's opportunities for you or for those who are there. But this is a great way for all of us to create our own networking events, as well.
That's neat. That's actually a really cool idea. I've actually never heard of that LinkedIn. What was it? LinkedIn
Local.
Excuse me. Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. I'd love to join in and be a part of that.
Absolutely. I'll send a link out to you for you to join in. Yeah. Awesome. And if there's anyone else that wants to join in on any LinkedIn Local events here in the future, we're still on Zoom. We're probably going to be on Zoom till this whole thing is done with. And I don't know how long it's going to be. Maybe till 2022.
2022, I think.
That's we're finally going to be out in person. But, because I do miss the local networking events. But if you're interested in joining in or creating a LinkedIn Local where you're listening from, let me know, and we could work something out about that, or I can help you out, or I can have my friend Gracie, her and my other friend Bruce, both of them are the ones that have that host a LinkedIn local event that I attend. And so if you want to host a LinkedIn local event at your area, feel free to let me know. I can, maybe I can have you meet with Bruce and Gracie, and then they're going to go ahead and help you with, getting your, we're giving you some tips and pointers on how to do your own LinkedIn local event, depending on where you're at. But because we're on Zoom, I think we can have a bigger LinkedIn local, and it's all good. So yeah.
I wanted to just kind of put out there too, to just to kind of take it back to TA and applying for jobs in this market. This climate has a lot of people, kind of freaked out for how am I going to support my family? How am I going to, take care of myself? How am I going to grow myself career wise? One of the things that I've also learned too, especially now during this time, is to really be humble. What I mean by that is, you kind of touched on it a bit there, Asia. You said, be servant leadership, and I really like that aspect. And that's looking for ways that you can help the company, not the company help you. So, if you're going to be trying to give back, this is actually really where volunteering comes in, and this is really where being there for someone or a company, for just in general, before you think of yourself. So I finished this great book the other day, and it's on. I actually have it right here. How awesome is this? So this book is this is called. I'll get it into focus here. Fear is a Choice, and this is by James Conner.
Yeah, nice book. I gotta read that book.
This is a great book. Okay, so first of all, James Conner's a football player. He's a running back for the Pittsburgh Steelers, which is my favorite team. But you're going to think, okay, well, if I like football or if I don't like football, I'm not going to like this book. Wrong. No, you actually will enjoy this book. This is a great book for people who are going through a lot right now. So just a heads up, he had Hodgkin's lymphoma, which he beat. He is 24 years old, I believe now. And he went to Pitt, University of Pittsburgh, where he played football. And then he got his call for the Steelers, and he's been there now for about 4 years, 3 or 4 years, I think now. And he who overcame Hodgkin's lymphoma while he was at Pitt, and this story is just very inspirational. You're going to learn a lot about what he did on and off the field. It's not just about like him as a football player. In fact, he might mention a term or two that you might not understand, but it's not like essential for you to understand it. So the whole point of this is to really just learn to be humble, and he really exhibits that humility of, he would go back, and after he finished his chemo, he would go back and check on the other kids and other patients. And I think one of the best parts was after a game, he knew this one 9-year-old, and so he autograph signed one of his jerseys, and then I think when he was well enough, he was able to get his family tickets to a Steeler game. So humility really goes a long way in this environment, in this climate that we're in right now. And if you can be selfless, you are going to find yourself successful eventually.
I agree with you. So the name of the book is, for those of you who are listening and not able to watch the video. If you're not able to watch the video, the name of the book is called Fear is a Choice, Tackling Life's Challenges with Dignity, Faith, and Determination by James Conner. I will put the link here in the YouTube below in the comments, or in the highlights below. So if you are interested in purchasing that book, go to Amazon.com. They'll have the book there, or Barnes and Noble. So the links will be there for you to be able to just click on to purchase and buy the book. But thank you for that. That's amazing. That's really amazing to know about the book. I'm a big book reader. I love reading different books. So just like knowing that you have that, I'm going to buy me that book now too to read, because I think there's some really good messages there. And we need, like you said, right now, especially with the whole pandemic and just everything that we're facing, and the fears that people are facing about what's, going on right now. How are we going to live and survive? And I have to kind of go back and think about it for a moment, for talent acquisition and human resources, how painful is it right now for the human resources department to have to go through layoffs and have to tell people, we're so sorry, but, because of the pandemic, we had to lay you off,
Yeah.
That happened to me in August. You lost your job in February, and 6 months later, because of the pandemic, I lost my job. And that was due to the fact that, yeah, the company said, hey, we're going to have to lay off many of you. There were many of us that were laid off. So it wasn't just me. There were probably about maybe, I want to say 8 to 12 of us. I mean, I don't know the count. I just know it was a pretty big chunk of us that were let go. And mostly it was because of the fact that it was the pandemic. I mean, that was, the financial aspect can really, hurt a company when they're trying to make sure that they're trying to make their ends meet and meet financial goals. And then if they're unable to because of something like this that's unprecedented, unforeseeable. Really. I mean, no one really foresaw that this pandemic was going to come. And so we're kind of going through this right now, you know. But Alex, I wanted to ask you like something, we have a few more minutes left before the end of our show, but we're talking a lot about talent acquisition. And I feel like with the pandemic, so much has changed. And then yet there's still so much that needs to be changed. And I believe that we have to start looking into our talent acquisition departments and teams a little bit more as far as what changes need to be made. So, I mean, Alex, I don't know, what do you think? What changes do we need to bring into the talent acquisition departments and the teams and companies to be able to make sure that we're giving people chances to get jobs? Because you got to understand, we've got millions of people out of work.
Right.
And,
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
insight.
No, that's a really great question. And personally, my thought is you got to continue that networking and referrals. So what I mean by that is that you are going to keep on meeting new people, that you are going to find ways to connect with organizations. The thing is an ATS is not going anywhere.
Yeah.
It's just for a prospective, applicant. Yeah, I'm sorry to have to say that to you, but that is not going anywhere. That
Yeah.
is something that recruiters, hiring managers use, because otherwise they're going to get inundated. So with applications. So anyway, the main thing that we really can rely on at this point is continuing the networking, referrals especially too. You know, I actually have a quick little kind of quote here that I got that this was on a LinkedIn article. Actually, no, I'm sorry. I posted this on my LinkedIn. This was from SHRM actually. So I get a lot of my articles from SHRM nowadays. So just based on recruiters nowadays, there were 800 surveyed recruiters, just based on how COVID-19 has shaped and reshaped the pandemic and hiring in general. And the above cohort, they produced higher levels of stress during this year alone. You can figure out why. But that stress, there's been a 61% increase, 61 increase. And we're going to take that a step further, and we're going to reveal that of that 61, 19% was drastic increase in stress. So, you were mentioning earlier on the toll, the mental health toll that it's taken on people. Well, it goes both ways too. It's not just our applicants, but it's also our recruiters too. So I will kind of give everyone here a little piece of advice. At least this is what I try to do. I always try to have a very pleasant conversation with recruiters. I don't try to fight them. I don't think that is nice at all.
No, not at all.
No, I really think that it's really up to you to display the personality that you want to display, as if you are currently working there, right? You want to show your personality, but you also want to already, here's the key word, empathetic, be empathetic to that recruiter, because you may be going through a lot, they may be going through a lot, but you're also both going through this pandemic, and this is a perfect time to be empathetic. So if there's one thing that I can take away, or the audience can take away, it's to be empathetic right now, especially to your recruiters.
Practice empathy. I think that's a good thing. If you feel like you need to practice it, I would definitely read emotional intelligence. There's emotional intelligence 2.0. And you know what? I'll link the book from Amazon. I just don't remember the name of the author at the moment. I'm so sorry, but there's one emotional intelligence book originally written by Daniel Goleman. Daniel Goleman, Goleman. He's one of the founders of emotional intelligence. He's written several books on this topic. And then, of course, we have Emotional Intelligence 2.0, which was written by another two authors who have their own consultancy agency in emotional intelligence and provide examinations where you can test your EQ. That's what we call them. EQ, standing for emotional intelligence, very similar to IQ, but your IQ is different from your RQ. I'm sorry, EQ. Then there's RQ, which is your relationship quotient, or really how well you are in your relationship building aspect. But that's a whole different show, relationship
I
building.
have to pick up that book that you mentioned too. So if you remember it, please let me know. Send me a message or an email. I would love to hear it.
Yes, I will. I'm going to link it down. I'm going to link everything down here, the book from Daniel Goleman as well, and just put it down there for people to read, because there's so much information about emotional intelligence. And I feel like if you're able to learn how to use it in situations, or being a transformational leader, transformational leadership is very much situational, but at the same time, you're motivating people to transform, to make sure that the organization is creating positive changes, or even within your community, or even within your house, whatever you're doing to use it. That's a whole different. We're going to talk about leadership in another show, I think, Alex. Maybe you and I need to get on another show soon where we can talk about that, because that'll be interesting. But the thing is empathy is something that you need to start practicing. If you don't feel that you're empathetic enough, get back into that, kind of dive into your emotions there and understand, put yourself, whenever you see something happening, put yourself in the other person's shoes. How does that person feel? If you were them, how would that make you feel, that same situation? So you want to think twice before you say anything as a leader or a manager to your employees or your workers. You want to try to make sure that you speak from a place of respect, from a place of admiration. As a leader, you want your followers to respect you. And so that's a huge deal. And I feel like also, not only is that a transferable skill, but you also have many other transferable skills. Obviously having a good knowledge of technology, that's transferable. Adaptability, flexibility, like we were just talking about earlier, that's transferable. Of course, empathy is something that we're talking a lot about here, but what are some of the other skills that are transferable for people that are looking for work and are trying to improve their resume? So maybe these are things they could add into their skill sets.
Yeah. There's one thing for me that I've found, that one skill that I found that is really transferable. And for me, this was a skill, it was customer service. This was a skill that I personally got very well at. I was one of my positions, I was with them for about 6.5 years.
Yeah.
And so the company prided themselves on perfect customer service. And actually, if you think about it, HR is very customer service driven. You may not necessarily be driven, like interacting with a customer of the company or a client, but you're interacting with the people inside your organization. So that is really going to have to, you're really going to need to have, good customer service. You're going to need to have that listening. You're going to need to have, again, that empathy. You're going to need to have that, anticipating what the customer wants, that kind of foreshadowing, that foreknowledge or whatever. So
Yeah.
that personally, in my field, at least, that's one thing that I've noticed that has been transferable from one segment to the other. I really think customer service goes a long way, though. I think you can use that in any field.
Yeah.
HR especially, I think that customer service goes a long way. So that personally is, for me, is another transferable skill, at least for HR.
No, and you're absolutely right. And I never really even thought about it that way until you mentioned it. So thank you for that enlightenment. I'm sure our audience is thinking the same way. Like, wow, this is great stuff. Yeah, customer service is a huge deal, because it's not about serving customers, or maybe I guess we could retrim it as employee service. Because we're really providing a service to the employees there by being there for them and having that humanistic aspect of human resources. It's not. Here's what my takeaway right now that I'm going to give to everybody is, please don't be afraid of human resources. And a lot of people get intimidated, oh my God, human resources is calling me. Am I going to get fired? Is something going to happen? And that's not the case most of the time. 99% of the time, that's not the case. Unless you did do something quite wrong where, they're going to talk to you, reprimand you, and say, hey, we're going to, give you strike one here, or strike three or out. That's a whole different thing. That's on something that might have happened. But most of the time, if HR is calling you or wanting to talk to you, it might not have nothing to do with you, but just in general, maybe they want to get a good understanding of the company. If they're sending out an email to everybody, they're trying to, like, maybe they're trying to get you to do an employee satisfaction survey. Maybe they want you to help them with working on a project. I know at my last job, I was helping human resources with projects, such as creating a career ladder for the different departments and making sure that we had something going along that route. So before, my colleagues and I were, laid off because of the pandemic, we were working towards, creating a career ladder for our employees there, and it was a lot of fun. So human resources is not there to hurt you, to threaten you about your job. They're there to help you. You might have gotten a pay increase by your manager. You didn't know about that, or a promotion. And so, HR is going to call you to say, hey, we have some great news for you. This is what's going to happen. Effective Monday, you're starting a newer role that's going to give you more money, or whatever it is. And of course, you need to be open to going to human resources anytime you have an issue or a problem or something is going on where you're like, I really do need to talk to somebody in HR, because that's what we're supposed to be there for. We're supposed to be there to listen to you, to empathize, right? To sympathize, to lead, to serve, and to help you. So, and I know that sometimes we've heard horror stories of, human resources not taking quick enough action and do certain things. And so that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make it so that human resources is a healing aspect of the company, not a place to be afraid of.
There also something else too to mention is HR is there also to protect the reputation of the company.
Exactly.
And so even though they might be calling you in to see them, that's just something they're saying, we're concerned about our reputation. And as a, essentially every employee is a liaison of their company. Whether they are working on or off the clock, they are still representing the company. They are still having one way or another of that. And so, I always look at that as kind of like a neutral topic. It could be bad depending on what you do. Hopefully you don't do too much. But at the same time too, it's also positive because they want to just, the HR wants to make sure that their firm has a good understanding and they have a place,
Yeah.
a good place, obviously, where their company is.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've seen also too, just from this year alone, we've seen a big increase in D&I and equality too. So that position alone, by the way, for some companies, A, has either started, or B, has been inclusive now of diversity. And formerly was originally was diversity and inclusion, if they
Yes.
didn't have them, and now it's diversity, equality, and inclusion. So we've got three things now. So we have a huge movement now with that, and so that's
Yeah.
actually created a job,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
many companies. So
Yeah.
that's actually something else too. I forgot to mention this earlier, but there are actually a lot of positions nowadays that are being created from 2020 alone. DE&I is just one of them. At least in HR for me. So I've been seeing a lot of that pop up.
Yeah, that's true.
There's also another opportunity too that I saw just a little while ago on LinkedIn, and it was a organization. Actually, I thought of you. In fact, when I saw this position, it was like a organization development, training. Basically, those were like the top three key words that I took away from that requisition. And yes, I do have to say I did apply for it. So I don't know if I really want Asia to apply for it, but if I don't
get the job, is that what you're afraid of?
But if I don't, maybe I can pass it along to you, because again, we talk about referrals here. And but in any case, the requisition had a lot to do with what I was looking for in a job. And I have interest in talent acquisition, but I also have interest in organization development too. So I'm that's actually why, in my opinion, I think I'd make for a good HR generalist eventually, because I have quite a wide range of interests in HR. So,
You
but in
might
any case,
get a doctorate or in organizational development or
well,
organizational leadership. I don't
we'll see on that. I'm happy with my MBA right now and my SHRM CP, but we'll see what happens down the line. Maybe
I started to bring that up because hey, here I am getting one. So, I always like start telling people, go get a doctorate, be like me.
Well, you're driven. See, like I always feel like you're in like fifth or sixth gear, and I'm like in like second or third gear. Like, bro, I'm progressing, but like you're just like on a whole nother level. Which nothing wrong with that. I'm very impressed. I'm very like happy for you. Like you need to keep doing what you're doing because you know what you're all about. But for me, I'm happy in second or third gear. I'll shift up to fourth or fifth or sixth gear eventually. So.
Eventually, you're just still chugging up that hill. Like you just got to gear that up,
Of course.
Yeah, right. But
I really love cars for the audience. That's why a lot of my metaphors have to do with cars. So just a heads up there.
he has a Mustang, you guys, so that's why. That's why. Oh my gosh, Alex, you know what? It's been so awesome talking to you today. I feel like we could go on and on and on forever, but we've got a limited amount of time for our audience to also hear us talk today. So just one last thing that you have maybe you can give us as a takeaway tip. What's that?
Yeah, I think I said it earlier, but it's right now you really just got to be flexible. That means just not, doing things that you're not accustomed to doing. If it makes you a little uncomfortable, you gotta embrace the uncomfortability or the
Step out of your comfort zone, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So it's really that, you just got to put your foot in the mud so long as the mud's not a bad decision.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you so much, Alex, for being here on the Empowered HR Leader Show today. I can't wait for the audience to just really go check out those links. I'm also going to put in a link because you mentioned HRIS, Human Resources Information Systems. There's a great organization. Check it out. It's called IHRIM. So they are a Human Resources Information Systems or information management organization, association. Yes, there is a membership fee that you do pay, just like you would to, Society of Human Resources Management, which is SHRM, or PIRA, Professionals in Human Resources Management. There's also National Human Resources Association, the NHRA. There's so many associations out there. If you're interested, and if you're in HR and you're like, I really want to be a part of these, there's also ATD, which is the Association for Talent Development. If you're into training and development and learning and development, I'm a part of that organization. I'm a part of all these organizations I just mentioned. Some of them I know I have to renew my membership fees, already by this point, because it's a yearly thing. But I definitely encourage all of you guys to look into those associations, to go ahead and become a member of them, to be as involved as possible, especially right now. If you're out there looking for a job, we talked about talent acquisition. We know that talent acquisition has to go through a lot of changes, and one of the first things is to have some empathy in everything else. And so, kind of, I guess, going back to everything that we said, take what we talked about today and really apply it to helping you with finding a job. Helping you to even create your own networking events like we were talking about. Just make sure that you're putting yourself out there as much as possible. And ATS systems are not going to go anywhere, like we said. So just make sure your resumes are clean and crisp, not fancy, unless you're trying to apply for a creative position and they might not use an ATS system. And we don't know that, but that is a per company basis. But you definitely want to see how you can get yourself in the door. And that was really the aim of our conversation today. So I really hope that you enjoyed our conversation. Thank you once again for being here and watching the show. And thank you, Alex, so much again for being here and giving us such amazing insight and sharing your awesomeness with us. I think it's great to have fellow HR professionals here on this show to talk about all things HR. Now, that said, I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of your day, your week ahead, and we will be back next time on Empowered HR Leaders Show. Thanks so much. Bye-bye, everybody.